Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 8 of my podcast, Loss, Love, and all the other shit in between. Now, today's episode is about technology, breaking us one notification at a time. Now, I felt I had to discuss this because it's out there. Everybody is aware of it. You know, you sit in a restaurant and you look around and you're having a date and you look around the different tables and you see so many couples stuck to their phone. And you're thinking, why? Why are you not concentrating on that individual that's in front of you? Why are you not discussing how your day was, or how they are, and how they're feeling, and how is their family, and having that kind of communication? Now, I get it. You know, you live with that individual and you communicate all the time. So when you go out, there may not be that much you want to talk about. But then you want to talk about something that you saw on the telly or something that you happened at work, because being on your phone and technology is taking away that interaction between two partners that love each other. Now, not just when you're going out to on a date, you know, that's one-on-one time. I'm talking about things like going to bed at night. You know, so many people nowadays are working two jobs. Some people are working different shifts. So you don't get that interaction and you don't get that time. But the couples that work normal 9 to 5 jobs get to spend the evening together and not like to have romantic evening where they cook dinner together, do dishes together, snuggle up on the couch while watching, you know, the latest movie on shitflix or what have you. But bedtime is romantic time. It's snuggling. It's talking about what you're going to do the next day and, you know, what you'd like for breakfast. As sad as that is, it's communication. It's interacting. It's showing an interest in your partner. But what I find is a lot of people nowadays, when they go to bed, you know, they're on their phone. And then it feels like you have to fight for that time. You know, that there's somebody on that phone that's more interesting than you are. You know, maybe they're looking at the new Tom Hardy flick, or, you know, don't get me wrong, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, this is our time to be together, you know. And the only time we actually do interact is when the phone is just about to go dead and you got to put it on charge and you're frustrated because now you have to conversate, and that is where you can tell that the individual is not that fucking interesting. It's really sad, you know. There is a time and a place to be on your phone. You know, most people when they go on the shitter, they they're on their phone and they'll play little games and what have you while they're busy. And some people read a magazine and what have you. You know, that's not me, but for me, it's the same shit, different toilet. It's just the same situation all the time. And technology is taking that interaction away from your partner. And to me, you gotta be eye to eye. You gotta communicate and you gotta see each other. You know, trying to communicate with somebody that their head's down on their phone, and then they've got their phone, and you know they've got it in their hands and they're just like, yeah, just wait a minute, I've just got to check my email. And then they're, you know, they're like this and they're gassing away and they're doing whatever they do, and then they get frustrating because you're interrupting what they were looking at. And that to me is really, really bad. And you know, we need to change something. You know, as a couple, you need to have that discussion. And if somebody's seen it more, because people are blind to it because it's all habits, you get used to it. It's the norm. You know, some people wake up in the morning, the first thing they do is they grab their phone and they check the football news and they check their emails and they check Facebook quickly. And, you know, if they're having an affair, they want to quickly check on Bumble to see if anyone's matched them. But it's just a force of habit. You need to get out of that. So you need to be able to say, look, you know, enough's enough. You need to put your phone down. You know, phones, in my knowledge, when it's in the bedroom, realistically, the phone should be like an alarm clock. So you can set the alarm, you put it on charge, and you put it on charge on the opposite side of the room. It's easy said and done. You know, I've done it in the past, but I've learnt my lesson. And through time, I've, like, you know, I've said, look, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to have that interaction. No, I was chatting to a really good friend of mine earlier on, and we were discussing it when we were younger and what used to keep us busy and occupied. We used to go out to restaurants and, with your family, and the thing that you would interact with would be like a little box of crayons, and you'd have that little coloring pad, and we'd have that imagination of what color to use to color in a picture, and there'd be like a crossword or a word search or something that'd be on that little newsletter that the pub or something had put together, and we would use that, and you would color in with your child. But it's all changed nowadays. Kids are taking their iPads with them to the pub. They don't want to interact with their parents. They don't want to talk to their parents. Parents don't want to talk to their kids. So the easy thing to keep them occupied is to stick their iPad in front of them. And it's pretty sad. You're not interacting. I get it if they're playing games and they're playing maths games and things like that, and you can play with them, but then, that's a home time. They're watching YouTube clips, and they're obviously not watching my podcast because this is not for kids, but it's, I've watched kids watching young kids opening up board games and opening up dolls and, Pokemon cards. And yeah, I get all that. That's really good. But when you go out, it's an adventure. It's meant to be an adventure when you go out with your family. They go away in caravan trips. And when they go away in caravan trips, they've got to have their iPad. And then the whole time they're sitting inside the caravan watching telly on their iPads. Look, it's a lazy form of parenting. And what it is trying to distract away from the kids being frustrated that they've got to have their iPad while they're having their cereal. Now, I'm old school, and hence why I'm moaning about it and complaining and discussing it today. And that's mainly because, we didn't have them options as a kid. And I think if I was younger, in this day of age, I would get it. We would probably get the same things. But so I get that. But there is parents that I know that they give the certain amount of time with technology. They'll give them an hour a day, and they get to choose when they use that hour. So, sorry, my throat's completely gone. And then you'd give them that hour, and in that hour, they've got that time, and they can break it up. And if they're clever enough, they'll do 10, 15 minutes, and they'll do it multiple times through the day. But most kids will do their full hour, not realizing that once that hour's gone, they're no longer allowed on it for the rest of the day. And they get moody, they lose their shit, they don't want to interact with their parents. And it's because they're addicted to the screen. They're addicted to screen time. So you've got to try and split that and take them away from them. And I was chatting to my friend the other on and kind of ruining the podcast that I was discussing with her more and more what I was going to be putting in this episode, which meant it took it away, and she better be watching. But you better be watching, D, all right? Make sure you do. Now, when we were younger, when we used to play, we used to go out and play. We used to play on the streets, and we played till whatever time. And, I moved to England in 1970. Nope, I keep saying that. 87, 88, when I moved to England from Scotland. And we were out all the time, same as we were in Scotland. But in England, we were out with our mates, and to whatever time at night. There wasn't technology. Mobile phones wasn't a thing that was out at that time, and it was the old phone with a whole circle, and it would take you about 7 hours for it to go back round again. So then you can click 0, 1, and it would just take forever, right? And it was like 2, and it would just take forever. And by that time, you forget what the actual number was, and then you'd have to start again, and it was just so frustrating. So yeah, it's all digital now, and it's so way different. So we would stay out to whatever time of night, and the only time we knew it was time to go home is when the street lights went on, and then we knew, all right, we need to go home, we need to eat. I the last time I ate was at school, and that's what we tend to do as kids, and when we used to get punished by our parents, and we used to get grounded. We weren't allowed out. And that used to be more frustrating because you had that FOMO moment where you'd have that fear of missing out. That one of your friends would tell you at school the next day, you missed out, you missed the moment at the Fish and Meat Co-op, that they were giving away ice lollies because they're going to melt, or, they're going out of date and they were giving all the kids out in the front. And you're like, oh God, how can I miss an ice lolly? Damn, and your friends are knocking your door. And then your mum would be like, tell them to F off. You're not allowed out. And you'd be like, Mum, come on. I wasn't that bad. That was punishment. Now, you can't punish the kids and tell them, right, you're now staying in. Because they'll be like, all right, cool. Thank you. And then they stay in. Because most kids nowadays don't want to go out. They don't want to socialize with anybody. They become socially inept and they struggle and they ostracize themselves from everybody else. And then the parents wonder why kids don't want to interact with other kids when they're in the playground, or they're at a party and they're stuck at their table because they're on their phones and they don't want to get up and dance. They don't want to act the fool and be the class joker or what have you. They don't want to fool around because all they want to do is be on their phones. And that's where the problem is, nowadays, that kids just want to stay all the time in the room, play on their PlayStations, watching TikTok videos, and a lot of it's just nonsense. And then they're watching all of this and it's like, why are you not outside? If you're going to spend time in your room and you're going to be on your computer, why are you not coding? Why are you not creating games? Why are you not doing YouTube content? Why are you not drawing, designing? That's taken it away. And then the whole time they're playing COD and they're just playing, all the fighting games and everything and playing FIFA and stuff, which is great, but again, within limited time. So people wonder why there's mental health issues, because of the only interaction they've got with people is on the end of headphones to people they don't even know, or friends that should really be coming round and going out on their skateboards and going out and playing. That's what you want, right? That's what you want your kids to be doing. And yes, there's a lot of crime nowadays and there's gangs and there's all that knife shit that's happening every day. And it's such sad stories and situations, and I feel for them. We want our kids to be out there, but they're not really that safe. But it just depends where you stay and where you live. And it's a catch-22. You want your kids to be out there playing out in the streets, but then with everything that's going on in the world, you're like, no, 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 you're not going out. So yeah, it is like a catch-22, and I get that. But kids just don't want to be around their friends' houses. They don't want to do nothing nowadays. So that's also a relationship killer, because you don't get quality time with your kids. They go through so many years of come down for the dinner and they don't even want to eat the dinner. They want to just hurry up and scoff it down and go straight back up to their room so they can log back in and play with their mates. What happened to the old days when kids used to play board games? I know that's boring now, you know, Monopoly, Game of Life, Scrabble, or Mysteries at Old Peking. What a board game that was. That was one of my favorites. But that's taken away. So kids don't come around nowadays and play board games. And it's so sad. Really, really sad. Look, it's good. I mean, I'm not trying to take that away from kids. It's exciting. It's enjoyable for kids. But as parents, we need to be able to balance it correctly. I've been at restaurants and I'm sitting there and I look around and kids are trying to talk to their parents and parents are glued to their phones. Kids trying to get attention. And then they wonder when the kids get older why they're not talking to them and why they've got an attitude towards them and why they don't want to spend time with me. My mum was old school. I can imagine what it was like in the 70s and you had a new child and, choices that you made or choices that were out of your control. And it was easy once you knew that your child was a big TV fan a big movie fan who used to love sitting down and watching Monkey, watching the A-Team, Fall Guy, you know, shows that, Dempsey and Makepeace, Moonlighting with Bruce Willis, they were my shows growing up. I loved them. And I felt like I was in the TV with them. It's just the way my brain works. But it was easier for my mum to just pat me off in front of the telly. And it was like a lazy form of parenting. But my mum was young herself. She was 20, 21 when she had me. So I get it. Um, but in a way, I don't think it's done me wrong in any way. But I learned by mistakes that I had seen and been involved in that I wanted to try and change the way I brought my kids up. But because of other parents and the way they treat their kids, then my kids wanted to do exactly what they did. So therefore, it took away the whole element of what I wanted to do as being a parent. And I get it. You're tired. You've been working all week. And it's easy just to go, all right, here's your iPad. Give me peace. Now, you've been at school all day and I've been at work, or I don't work. So therefore, I've been at home alone. And you just come on from school. Here's your iPad. I need more rest. I need to relax more. Nobody really knows if they're doing the right thing as a parent until it's too late. So again, I'm not saying this so any new parents out there that are watching this, don't do that. Just say no. It's not as easy as that. You do what you need to do as a parent, because at the end of the day, you shouldn't be judged as a parent, because it's your life, it's your children's life. You've got to live with it. And if you end up with regrets, then that's down to you. That's not down to me. I'm just stating the facts, what I see with technology and how it's changed. I know when I've been on dates, and the last couple of dates that I've been on, I kept my phone in my pocket, because I know what happens is that you get stuck in that route, and you don't want to in that rut and be interacting but looking at your phone at the same time, because that other individual is going to look at you and go, he's not that interested in me, and you miss out an opportunity to be with that person. So I made sure the last couple of dates I've been on, my phone stayed in my pocket. And one of the dates I went on was a long ass trip, and we went away for hours and hours on the way back. And then my favorite football team of all time was playing the exact same time. And I wanted to check the score. I really wanted to. But my whole concentration was on her. So I wanted to make sure that I was there every bacon call, and I didn't want to be seen as, yeah, whatever, and be stuck on my phone checking the football, because at the end of the day, me watching it or listening to it, whatever, is not going to change the score. The score is going to be the score when it ends. And obviously, both of them dates backfired miserably, and we're not exactly friends anymore. But that's very sad. But I stuck to them rules. So maybe I should have taken my phone out. Maybe I should have been like talking over my phone. And maybe that would have worked. Maybe if I didn't show her as much attention as I did, then maybe it wouldn't have backfired the way it did. But it is what it is. But I've learned from it, and I've learned that in the past, it's not what you do. Now, I remember when I was married, the amount of times that I'd work like 50, 60 hours in a week. I'd be doing like 12-hour shifts every day for like 5 days during the week. And it was really tough, 6 till 6. And when it came to the weekend, some weekends I would just have the Saturday off, and I'd be back in on the Sunday, obviously. And I'd have one day off, and I wanted to do something. So I wanted to go out. Now, one of my late great friends, Jackie, bless her soul, God rest her soul, even, most of the pubs that we would go to, she would always be the landlady in it. And I used to enjoy going to the pub. My ex-wife was, got on really well with her as well. So anytime we'd go out, Jackie would be, behind the bar, but she'd always come outside the bar, and she'd come and have a drink with you at the table, and she'll catch up, and she'll be like, Sean, what's going on? And you'd always chat with Jackie, and always made you feel nice. So for me, that banter is what you want. You want to go out, get some food, go out for a couple of drinks, And if you're lucky enough and it's not too far, you walk home, whatever you get a taxi. And I used to try and say to her, like, well, let's go out for a couple of drinks. Let's interact with everybody in the pub. Let's make new friends. Let's mix with different couples. No, no, I don't want to go out. There's no point going out. All we're going to do is be on our phones. And I'm like, well, let's change that. Why don't we leave one phone at home? You have your phone and you leave it in your handbag. So if the kids need to get hold of us, and you just tell them um, to get hold of me on this phone, and I'll leave my phone at home. No, 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 there's no point. And then we'd never go out. And it's very sad because it's the same thing. And then we'd stay in, and then we'd watch omnibuses of EastEnders, and you're just sitting there thinking, all right, is this my life? Again, technology. You're glued to the telly. You know, when she left, I decided, nah, no more EastEnders, no more live TV, no more, you know, So I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, all them kind of shows where you have to watch it every night because you're going to miss an episode, Love Island, them kind of things. Nah, enough of that. I ain't watching that shit anymore. I'm just going to stick to streaming, and when I have the time, or I just watch movies. I'm not going to be dictated to and be controlled by the schedule, because that's all it is. It's schedules, right? EastEnders, I don't know what it is now. I don't know if it's still on 3 days a week or whatever it is. And then you got the omnibus on a Sunday. And then the latest technology came out with the Skybox that you could record. And then they got the Q box now, and the, you know, all the different levels of technology that there is now. And I don't, you know, keep up with that kind of stuff when it comes to that, because I don't have it. I don't need it. But then you start recording shows. But then it dictates to you, because you've only got a certain amount of terabyte. So you'd have a 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte box, that, you know, hard drive inside, that would control the amount of space that you've got on there. And it used to control my ex-wife to the point when it used to say, look, you've got 20% left. And I remember sitting there chatting, and she'd be like, we need to catch up. We need to catch up in the telly. There's too much space. It's not going to record the next thing. So delete it. Delete the shows. I don't really care. I really don't care. I'd rather do something else. You know, you can have a date night. You can go out for dinner. You can go out for a couple of drinks. You can come home. You can watch a movie. So I don't see that as being bad technology. It's coming home and snuggling up on the couch and watching the latest movies, or, you know, watch a couple of episodes of your favorite show. There's nothing wrong with that. Or go on a massive binge and go through Ozark. Great show. But, you know, it's balance, right? Like anything in life, you need balance. So you balance it. So Friday night is movie night. Wednesday night is Ozark, or, you know, Breaking Bad, Sopranos, or whatever, you know, all them great shows. But you set and schedule, and you're not following it. I know it's sad, but Monday night's jigsaw night. Monday night's Lego night. Whatever, you know, as a couple you want to do together. Do something together. It's about getting out. So why not certain days of the week do something different in the evening? Go dancing, go country dancing, you know, go line dancing, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, go line dancing, learn salsa, go on a cooking class together, go to pottery. There's so many elements you can do in a relationship, that you don't necessarily have to be dictated or directed by certain things that are on TV on a certain night of the week. And that all stems back to comfort zones. In relationships, you fall into them comfort zones. You know, if you're not happy in a relationship, you need to discuss it. You got to say, look, I'm not happy. You're at work all day, and when you come home, you're in the kitchen, and I'm trying to conversate with you, and I can't, because every time I look at you, your head's down in the TV and into your mobile phones. Did you not have your mobile phone at work with you all day? Could you have not have looked at that kind of shit when you were at work on your break? You know, you're not a teacher, but you're in a partnership. You're recently married, long married, or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you. But most couples don't want to discuss that. Most couples would rather just go get pissed off about it, tell somebody else about it, but not actually tell them about it, that it makes you unhappy. And then they'll test you. And then they'll say, look, did you hear what I said? Yeah, I heard what you said. So what did I say then? And then they get aggravated. Why are you questioning me? Why are you trying to test me? I did listen. So what did I say then? You were talking about your mother. No, well, first of all, I was talking about my father. And I was talking about what he would like to do with you this weekend. Oh, what did he want to do? No, it's too late now. Not interested. And then you got straight away, you got that barrier up. And as most men, they don't apologize. They don't give a shit. So that element is lost. That person's upset. So talk, communicate, tell them you're not happy about it before you start talking to somebody else, and then you go down that route. But I'm always here whenever you guys want to talk, you want to discuss it. I ain't no guru, hence why I'm still single, but I'm only going to tell you what I see and the frustrations that I see. And I was saying the other day to one of my friends that I had a car accident last week. And yeah, I've had a couple now, but the recent accident I had a couple of weekends ago, I had to go to the garage. I had to get certain things fixed on the car and getting certain parts replaced and taken out and what have you. And I was sitting in the waiting room. And as I turned my head, there was 5 people in the room with me. And it was a small room. So if somebody starts communicating, everyone joins in the conversation. I looked around and every single person was like this. Every single person was like, and swiping. Now I get it. It's your life. Do what you want to do. But what happened to those days when you just like, you just spark a conversation? Spark. Do you get that? But you just like, cars, right? Pain in the arse. And they go, yeah. And then you can see which person wants to interact with you. But the other ones are listening. So they also want to join in the conversation. And you start the conversation off. Yeah, I had an accident the other day, and somebody wasn't looking where they were going and went in straight into the back of me. And it damaged the valve and damaged one of my tires and smashed in my bumper, and I ended up with whiplash and my shoulder's killing me, and my neck. And then they'd be like, yeah, no, I feel really bad. And then you could spark a friendship, relationship, find out something that they're into. It could be something that you're into. So yeah, you get to that point in your life where you're just like, I'm not going to talk to that individual. I'm not going to talk. And it's sad, right? Because you tend to fall into that rut. So you're not making new friends. You can't go to a pub by yourself, because you go to the pub by yourself and then you end up going on your phone. And there could be a beautiful woman. There could be a stunning guy. There could be your next door neighbor. There could be a fucking alien that walks into the bar. And nobody would notice because everyone is so glued to their phones. And it's such a shame, because that individual walks in and they look around. Who can I interact with? Not who's going to buy me a drink. But they're going to be like, right, who can I just spark a chat with? Ask them if they got a lighter. Ask them if they've been to this bar before, or can you recommend a rum to drink? Bamboo. But you don't get that. People are not looking up. And the whole world around us just revolves while your head's down looking at the screen. Now, I don't have all the answers. I can't stop or change certain individuals, but I'm just stating the facts, and people hopefully that are listening in and watching will realize that, yeah, it happens to them. But all I can say to you, before the relationship gets to that point, and I've been to that point, and it's a point of no return, and there is no way you can come back from it, because it's been happening for years, and no marriage counseling, no friend is going to be able to give you the advice to make it better for yourself. Once it gets to that point, there's no point of return there. You've the relationship's completely dead in the water. Once you don't have communication, what is the point of having a relationship? You got to have that communication. You got to keep that spark going. And when it comes to sex, there is no interaction nowadays. You probably end up having to send a text message or a WhatsApp message to say, look, are you up for it? Are you interested? I'm feeling a bit frisky. I'm a little bit horny, but nah, you shouldn't have to ask for it, and you shouldn't have to. You should just know when you're face to face and you're lying face to face, or when you're spooning. Trust me, you'll know. Not just when you feel something, but just more. You just feel that love. That element's been taken away of most relationships, which is really sad. They were like, yeah, how about it? You up for it? Nah. How is that sexy? You know what I mean? What is sexy? Sexy is when someone comes home and one cooks dinner and the other person does the dishes. But now they don't do the fucking dishes because they put it in the dishwasher. But at least as long as they put it in the dishwasher and they press that button, technology makes it easier. But other people, they're on their phones and yeah, I'll do it in a minute. Yeah, I'll do it in a minute. Rather than running a bath for your missus because she's been on her feet all day. Rather than sitting on the couch and massaging her feet. Having that intimacy. Chatting shit. Having a laugh. Talking about, like I said to you, the weekends and your next holiday and where would you like to go on holiday next year? You don't even do that nowadays either. You know, work out what your partner's favorite color is, not just by what they wear. So they wear loads of red, so it must be their favorite color. But most men don't even notice what their women are wearing because to them it's just another top. And you don't know what their hobbies are. You don't know that they're learning Spanish. You don't know that they're on Duolingo and they're learning to do Italian because they want to travel and they want to live abroad eventually in their life. So why not learn it together? Why not talk together? Why not test each other? You know, if you don't want to play the app on the phone, get a dictionary book, getting it, speak Italian or speak Spanish, learn it, do a class together. I think the key to any relationship is working together, and it's a partnership. It's a commitment that you made together, but you've got to be committed. And I think with technology, it takes away that intimacy, drains it from you. And it's so sad. And then you've got really good guys that are there and they want to spend quality time with you. And yeah, they'd rather go with idiots that don't appreciate you. And then when you realize it's too late. And yeah, it's just really sad. Now, for me, technology is not a bad thing. We need technology in our lives because that's how, you know, we progress in life. You know, life has changed for the good, but there's also elements of bad as well. Now, with technology, it's gone into the point of iRobot stage, and all them robots are going to be around, and you're thinking, yeah, cool. It'd be like being in the movie with Will Smith, iRobot. But you saw how that movie panned out. Technology is changing, and we have to adapt, and we have to deal with change because we cannot control it. One voice cannot say, I'm not having robots. I'm not having this. Technology nowadays is taking people away from their workforce. Why? Because majority of the people are making far too many errors. People are not concentrating. People are glued to their phones. In most jobs that we're in, we're trying to reduce the amount of errors that are happening, because errors at time cost money. You send out the wrong product, it's got to come back, and at a cost of you've got to resend that item out. And so many errors happen. There's a lot of time is lost. So by getting robots in to take over, building the cars, doing the deliveries, picking the orders for us, cleaning the warehouse floors. There's so much technology that's been created to save time. Costs a lot of money, a shitload of money, but over the long run, less mistakes. Saving money. You don't have to pay somebody a salary. You don't have to pay them 28 to 45 to 50,000 a year. You'll spend 50,000 on a machine, but after that first year, you're reaping the benefits because you're saving 50 grand the next year for somebody else. So I get it, but that's where we have to concentrate. That's where we have to make sure we do our jobs correctly. Other technology we've got is the digital phones. I mean, the digital watches. We don't need to have our mobile phones in our pockets anymore. You can get phone calls on your watch, which is really cool. Don't get me wrong. But again, we're glued to it. I'll be talking to you and it's beep, 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 and they're straight down and they'll check and then they're swiping. And some people can't even multitask. And because they're concentrating all their energy on what's on there, they're not listening what's happening around them. And it is also dangerous as well. It really is dangerous because they're not concentrating what's happening around them. Things are changing, and in some, like I said to you, you just have to adapt. But it's also a good thing as well. It keeps people in jobs to the certain extent of making them robots, because robots are not making robots. So, but yeah, they are going to take over the world, and that's just inevitable. That's what's going to happen, and it's not just in the movies, because most movies are true facts, and a lot of movies are things that are actually happening in the background, and things are changing. But to get back to the nature at hand, feels like lyrics. Back to the nature at hand. Yeah, it is. It is lyrics. And let's just adapt. Let's talk. Let's try and make a change. Let's make a difference. That's the way I would say it. If you're not happy of your current situation, it's communication. A lot of people don't want to test the water. They don't want to say it because they know it's going to get attitude. You're not in the mood for it, but it's going to just eat you up. You need to discuss it. And if they're not happy about it, it's because they don't actually give a fuck about you and they don't care, which is really sad. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my technology. My phone is up for renewal next month. And I want to get the new Honor V3, the one that opens up, finished screen. It's like a big tablet. So I want to get that for sure. Because I love technology. I love old gadgets. I love the earphones, the earbuds. I go crazy for my Galaxy Buds. And I've got the latest one, Galaxy Buds 3 Pro. Unbelievable. Love it. Helps me in my gym. I got a run tomorrow. I got a charity run tomorrow. Running 5K. No, without music. Running to me is absolutely boring as hell. And if I don't have my music, to me, it's like, what's the point? But I'm doing it for charity. So if they do take my earphones off me tomorrow, so be it. But in the gym, there's no way I could go to the gym without technology. I remember back in the days with the gym, it used to be way different. You used to have the TV screens and they'd be playing music videos and there'd be nice music going around rather than hearing the big steps and the jumping on the treadmill and then a class behind you on the bikes. I like my headphones with the noise cancellation to block out all the surrounding noise and people breathing and sweating and what have you. And, you know, how do you hear sweating? You know what I mean? Just everything around you is happening. And I just, no, I'd rather shut myself completely off it, have Mike, you know, have the latest hip hop, you know, bursting from my ears to motivate me, push me that little bit harder, you know. I love my technology. I love my big ass TV. You know, I love my Samsung Galaxy Book, you know, my laptop, you know, with my sturdy pencil. I enjoy it. You know, it makes my podcast better for sure. But it's amazing products and I love them. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Samsung junkie. I've been Samsung for many, many years, and that's me not trying to get a sponsor, but that's just me stating the facts. I love Samsung. It's what I live for. Um, and none of that control element. I don't like that kind of control element of what I can and cannot do. When I buy something, I want to be able to do what I want to do with it, and nobody's going to tell me any different. But certain other software and products, and you know, they control what you can and cannot do. But everyone to themselves. But yes, back to the relationship element of it. How I'm going to make a difference is, you know, my next relationship that I have, and even with friendships, you know, if I'm out with a friend and we go out to the cinema, and I was out at the cinema the other day watching F1, great film with Brad Pitt, and you can easily fall into think, yeah, whatever. We chat all the time, so yeah, it's all right, and just be on your phone the whole time. No, you got to concentrate. Going to go out with another friend next week to go see the same film. I don't care. It's about interacting and experiences with your friends. And then there's another friend that also wants to go, a very, very, very close friend that also wants to go see F1 and Jurassic World and everything else. And I'm all for that. I'm all for spending quality time with my friends and people I care about and people I love. But even though we're friends and we chat every day, I'm still going to interact with you. I'm still not going to take my phone out the whole time. It's still a relationship. You're still going to get shit from your friend and said, look, am I holding you back? Am I distracting you? Because that friend can easily step up and walk away. And this is time that you get quality time together as a friend or a, you know, relationship or what have you. But it doesn't have to be full on eye to eye contact. You don't have to be right here to discuss things, but you need that interaction. You need the eyes. You need the face, the smile, the, you know, just that kind of banter, that kind of thing that's just going to make them laugh. You're not going to get that with your head down. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but it's really, really good. Yeah. Nah, guys. So all I can say is, as a parent, this is just a recommendation. I'm not going to tell you what to do. All right. But I recommend if it's something that you do and you give them their tablets, TV time, try and balance the TV and try and make it like family night, movie night for the TV. With the iPads, try and do it for times. 1 hour on a Saturday, 1 hour on a Sunday. And then I want you out on your bike. We can go for a bike ride. We can go feed the ducks. Again, I'm not going to tell you how to parent. It's your kids. You can do what the fuck you want. But I'm just going to recommend it and try and make a difference with our kids. All right? Relationships. What can I say? Guys, you got the most important women in your life. The most amazing partner. Your best friend. Somebody that you chose to spend the rest of your life with. Don't lose that. Women, If your man is doing it to you, please, you need to discuss things with him. You need to tell him that you're not happy. But if you feel there's no way of coming back from it, then look for a better option. You know, it's really sad that certain individuals lose out on somebody that they care about and that they love while the other person's fucking it up. And it's not good. It really isn't good. All right, guys. So thank you. This was just a little bit of a conversation on technology and what I've seen, and, being a parent and seeing other parents around me and new age parents that have just had children now, and you try and speak to them about it and you try and share your experiences and what you've seen over time. And when unruly kids, not necessarily your own, because my kids are amazing, but other people's kids that are unruly, and then they come to me and say, I just don't understand it. I don't understand why my kid is that way, Sean. What can I do? There's only certain things you can do and certain things you can't fix. It's something that's been instilled in them at a young age. Just be appreciative for what you've got, because generally you don't know how long you've got with them. When they get older and they become troublesome and they become a pain in the ass, your relationship is tarnished, and it all stems from how you brought them up. And I'm not blaming you. I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect. I'm still winging it on a daily basis, because as most parents do, they wing it. Their parents didn't do an amazing job, so they try and do better. So they choose to try and give your kids what we didn't have as kids. But there was probably a reason why your mum was the way she was when you were younger, because she also knew she had experience from seeing other parents do it and where they failed. So you always try and think you're better. So you just go on this knock-on effect, and it just keeps going across the line. And when it goes across the line, the next generation of your family do the same and the same again and the same again. So you got to try and break that habit. Kids are our future. Kids have a massive amount of imagination. And by putting them in front of an iPad, it takes away that imagination. They no longer interact with you. They no longer open that or find that part of the brain where they just become so gifted from reading and building stuff, coding, become the next generation of leaders, and maybe we can get some decent politicians in the future, you know? So thank you guys. Hopefully this came across okay. It's always the thing when it comes to podcasts that you never really know if it's actually going to add any value. You don't really know if it's going to do anything. But you just do it and you go with it. You go with your gut. So hopefully this one was good. So just before I do my affirmation or Sean talk, I just want to say a huge, big thank you to everybody that supported me along the way so far. This is episode 8. I'm looking at maybe doing 10 episodes in season 1. Have a little bit of a break, do some work, try and work out exactly where I'm going to go with season 2, and come back bigger and stronger. The next episode, I've got my buddy, my pal, my amazing friend Claire, who's agreed to come on as a guest. So we just need to work out times and what's best for both of us. I'll always make myself available for Claire, because she's obviously doing me a huge favor coming on here with all of her knowledge in loss, in love, spirituality, all that kind of stuff. Expert, amazing woman. And I'm going to get her on here. We're going to discuss life in general and what we've seen. We've known each other for many, many years, so I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be really, really good. And hopefully we can make it a regular thing every few months, every 6 months, whatever. I'm happy to do that every maybe 2 episodes a season. I would enjoy that for sure. and find out what she's been up to. So that'll probably be the next episode that we do together. And guys, take care of yourself. Much love as always, and thank you. So here we go. We live in the most connected time in human history. We can talk to someone across the planet in seconds. We can access infinite knowledge with a tap. We can count our steps, monitor our heartbeats, even track our sleep. And yet, we've never felt more distracted, more emotionally distant, more alone. This isn't just a coincidence. This is what happens when technology begins to control us, not serve us. No one handed us a manual for this. There was no warning. When the phone is in our pocket, became a barrier between us and the people we love. It didn't start with a dramatic moment. It started quietly. One glance at a notification during dinner, one more email before bed, one quick scroll that turned into 40 minutes of silence between two people sitting right next to each other. We started trading eye contact for screen time, real laughter for emojis, intimacy for interruption. And slowly, almost invisibly, we stopped being fully with each other, even when we were in the same room. Now let's be clear, technology isn't evil. It's brilliant. It's revolutionary. It's part of our lives. But it was never meant to replace the things that make us human. Touch, presence, undivided attention, deep, vulnerable, face-to-face love. The problem isn't that we use technology. It's that we've stopped asking how we use it and what it's costing us. We've seen it, the couple on a date, both staring at their phones. The parents scrolling while their child is telling a story. The late night moments when you turn to your device instead of your partner. It's costing us more than time. It's costing us connection. It's draining our emotional intimacy drop by drop while we barely notice. Because when attention is divided, love is diluted. The hardest part, we don't even realize how far we've drifted until we feel the silence. The emotional gaps, the loneliness next to someone instead of without them. But here's the truth. This is not a hopeless story. We are not helpless. We still get to choose. We can put the phone down at dinner. We can leave it in the other room at night. We can look each other in the eyes, not just through a lens. We can create sacred spaces for presence, for undivided love. Because attention is the rarest and most generous gift we can give someone. Not a like, not a comment, not a double tap, but our time, our silence, our full presence. We can teach our kids that they are more interesting than a screen. We can remind our partners that they come first. We can rediscover what it feels like to be fully here together. Technology is a tool. Love is the reason. Let's stop letting our screens dictate our hearts. Let's reclaim our relationships from the glow of distraction. Let's be bold enough to choose presence, because in a world that's constantly pulling us apart, choosing real connection is a radical act of love. Thank you. Ciao, ciao, mofos.